Welcome back to another exciting episode. My name is Josh Kelly, and this is ISVs on Tap, episode number 3. All right, joining me today for ISVs on Tap is David Carson with QRlogix. David, thank you for being here.
Josh, thank you for having me. It's great to be a part of it. It was nice to tour the BlueStar facility, meet the whole team, and I'm happy to be here.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It really is. Quite a facility, and warehouse is something else.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool. It's like an aqua blue marine whale back there.
Right. Warehouse of the future. They talk the talk.
And it is not sponsored by Cyberdyne, contrary to popular belief, or at least my belief. So, all right, well, let's jump right in here, David. Talk to us. Tell me a little bit about you, and then walk me how you came up with QRlogix.
Great, yeah. So David Carson, I'm the founder and CEO of QRlogix Software. We were a COVID baby. I had been in Lombardy, Italy during the explosion of COVID. And when I finally got back to the United States, the company I was working for didn't want me anywhere near their facility. So I stayed at home for 6 or 8 weeks, and while I was there, I decided to write a business plan for a company that I had in mind at that time, selling specialized laboratory printers, a very niche market. Part of that was using labeling software to interface the printers, so I worked with a number of the big legacy labeling software companies, and a big takeaway was how really at the time overweight these applications were for what we were trying to do. And I think it was a consistent theme. What we really needed was a product that was more streamlined, that was easier for end users to learn, easier to deploy, and ultimately easier to manage and operate on a day-to-day basis. And so we set out to build a more streamlined labeling solution. And what we've come up with, I think, is a product that, again, is lighter weight, and it just appeals more to end users. And a good takeaway from that is that when it's easier for an end user to manage their own software, they're less dependent on the resellers, the application specialists, the solution architects that support them. So when we empower them with a solution that they can manage on their own, it's way less of a burden on everybody else upstream. And so we've taken that, we've really run with it, and we are building out a model that is reseller and channel partner specific. And when we ultimately deliver that product that's easier to learn, deploy, manage, everybody wins. The end user wins, and then the reseller that supports them wins because they're not constantly burdened with having to do minor things that really these users should be able to do on their own.
Yeah, right on. So the idea came from specialty printers, and it transitioned into what it is now.
Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty limited use case. At that time, it was microscope slide label printers, tissue cassette printers in cancer diagnostic laboratories. So it was one use case, specific labeling need, and we, I think, did a really good job of accommodating that. As a result, we are in most of the big cancer diagnostic laboratories, research institutions, nationally and globally. All the big household names use our product because, again, it's just way more streamlined for their use cases. And we've taken that and we've really tried to expand it into any industry. At the end of the day, labeling is really just connecting data to the label. It doesn't matter what the industry, what the use case is. So you're connecting systems to those labels. It doesn't matter if it's a cancer biopsy or cannabis. It's really the same thing behind the scenes. And so, again, we focus on that more streamlined deliverable that's, again, easier for everybody upstream, downstream to manage and operate.
Yeah, right on. All right, sounds good. So walk me through. My understanding of this app, and I'll have you walk me through this, is this program is the simplicity of making this work, right?
Right.
Why would you have 80 steps when you only need 5, right? And what I've, based on some previous conversations with you and others at your company, that seems to be the trend with what you guys are trying to do with this print, right? This print system.
Without a doubt, less clicks, more efficient process to get from point A to point B. A big part of that, starts and ends with integration. We need to connect the data sources efficiently to the labels, to the templates. And so, that the process of really streamlining that goes a long way by empowering these end users and everybody else that's involved, and it eliminates that kind of burden that follows it.
And the reason why is maybe I'm paraphrasing something that's not accurate. I don't think so, but if we simplify that process, what I'm hearing as a side benefit is reduction of errors.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's a big part of automation, right? We want to take the human, we cause the errors. We want to take ourselves out of the system and, again, connect those data sources directly. We want to get away from exporting an Excel spreadsheet, importing it in, those kind of manual labor processes. That's where a lot of problems occur. And in the laboratory space especially, errors, specimen misidentification, you get the results for a patient that was next to you, that can be a life or death situation. Every day in America, people get false positives, false negatives for cancer diagnoses. It's one thing to go home and tell your loved ones, hey, I've got cancer, but it's a whole nother thing to be told by the doctor, hey, you're clear, you don't need to come back and see us for a couple of years. I mean, that's literally a death sentence, happens every single day in America. The way we've improved that is by eliminating the human processes. It used to be manual hand labeling, then it went to batch printing from spreadsheets and everything else, and now we're connecting directly with the data sources, and the data's transferring through without that human element to screw things up, frankly.
Yeah, right on. So me and you go get blood work. Mm-hmm. By the way, your blood work's probably going to come back better than mine, but that's an aside.
See.
So you and I go get blood work. We just happen to go into, we'll just call it side-by-side rooms, right?
Right.
And there's a panel of all the different tests that we're going to run from that blood. So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, David, we have this panel. Let's just say there's 5 different tests on each one. Right. Well, if your software, you can preload those 5 tests. So you go, and the term they used earlier was click, print.
Right.
So it makes it that easy. Click, print.
Sure.
Prints off all 5 of those labels and slaps them onto my vials, and likewise on yours. Maybe it's a different set of 5 for you.
Sure.
On yours, right? So we don't want to be testing for something that you don't necessarily need testing on, 1. And 2,
right.
All of a sudden I find out that I have diabetes when maybe it was yours.
Right? Yeah.
You don't want to. That's not something you really want to hear.
No, correct. Yeah, you want to get the right results and not have those errors. And while it's that critical in healthcare, that's pretty obvious. But that transfers over everywhere, any industry, right? If you've got errors picking in the warehouse, sending the wrong product, there's all kinds of things that can happen related to manual labeling processes. And so we need to eliminate that. But more importantly, we need to come up with more innovative ways, new workflows that historically we haven't had access to. And with modern software, we can really reinvent some of these labeling processes. We need to get away from some of these workflows that really have come from just painting ourselves in a corner and doing what we think we should be doing, and instead step back and say, okay, what if we don't know anything else, what would the optimal workflow be? And then we build that into the labeling solution. And that's how you get to those really hyper efficient systems.
So you're I have a problem as a customer. Like, David, right. Here's a big pain point for me. I got this, it's not working, blah, 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 blah. So whatever that scenario is, what I'm hearing you say is you come in and say, Josh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Give me some time. I'm gonna tweak our current platform that fits your needs.
Right.
Right. So the customization piece, you're not only willing to do, but you're able to do and willing to do, I should say.
Right.
which makes a huge difference so that makes a huge difference for the reseller or the end user.
Right.
What I think is important here is tell me your defined market that you're going to do this with.
Really, any industry, any market. Cannabis is a good example. They've really struggled in the legal cannabis operations with labeling. And a big part of it is just super inefficient workflows. Most of the labeling solutions will revolve around exporting an Excel spreadsheet from a platform like Metric and then importing it into their labeling software and then doing manual data entry for a whole bunch of different templates, for every single product that they had. And that makes no sense at all. Super inefficient, error prone, and you're just creating work that doesn't need to be created. So we stepped back and we said, well, what's the ideal workflow? Forget about every labeling solution you've ever used. If you could dream up the most efficient workflow, what would it be? And they said, well, we would just click into the system on our product or package, and then all the data would populate, and then we'd hit print. And so what we did was we built a solution, we call it click, click, print, where all you do is go into the software, click into your live inventory, click on your package, it populates the label, and then they print their labels. And it literally takes seconds, as opposed to, minutes is an understatement, however long it would take to compile a CSV in the platform, export it, import it, and then do all the manual data entry. So it's really, reimagining and reinventing workflows, and that's how we come up with solutions that are light years ahead of anything that we've what's
the smallest deal you're willing to take?
Well, we do one-off solutions, all the time for individuals or for resellers that sell to individuals. So, customization, it just depends. We'll look at any opportunity. We work exclusively with resellers and channel partners. So, we want to accommodate their needs, right? It's not what we need, it's what they need. And that's how we're going to succeed is by working with them to come up with a deliverable that's optimal for their customers. And so we can do that with an OEM solution. If there's a company and they've got their own product and they need their own, private labeled solution that's customized top to bottom, we can build that for them. With resellers and channel partners, we can do white label solutions really easily so they can have products that are branded as them. With our engine and infrastructure, they can go out and market it. We do a revenue share. But that's something I think we've done really well is accommodating needs that are going to help these other partners and channel partners and resellers really excel. Is, what's the pain point currently? And then how can we reinvent this and wipe it out and come up with a solution that's just way more efficient?
Based on conversations that we've had, I feel like I'm gonna say this. You can tell me to go pound sand. Okay, what I think you guys will do, and you can confirm or deny this, is if you, the reseller, have questions or there's a deal on the table that you're unsure of in the print space, call them. Call me. I'll connect you.
Yeah, and we're not afraid to get into the weeds. We love to do pre-sales demos with our partners and resellers. We want to get involved with the customer. Our software tends to be really easy to set up labeling templates. And it's super powerful when you've got an opportunity and you say to that potential customer, hey, let me know what you want your label to look like. And then we build a template and then we do a pre-sales demonstration where they're actually going to see real time what they want to print and how it prints out. And if there's sequences with, lettering or kind of sequential labeling, we can build all that in and they can see real world exactly what's happening. And frankly, when customers buy printers, a lot of times it's the software. They say, oh, can the printer do that? Well, yeah, a printer's going to do whatever the software tells it to do. So really the interaction between an end user and a printer is typically the third-party middleware software, really. That's their pain points. That's what they deal with every day. And if that's optimized for their workflow, it's going to be a great user experience. If that software isn't optimized, it's not going to be a good user experience. And they just blame the printer, right? Because it's not the printer they're facing with all the time. It's the software.
Did you guys hear that? Blame the software. And then
Right.
call David.
Blame the printer. Blame the driver, actually. It's always the drivers that are the real headache.
Did you take a driver call earlier today?
I did take a driver call at lunch, and we were supporting other people's drivers, but
right.
That's part of the deal. It's a team effort, and one thing about QRlogix software, a big differentiator, again, we like to get into the weeds. We want to work directly with end users. We've created a lot of value for resellers that are new or are small, and they have opportunities to sell printers and scanners and hardware, but they're not great at the labeling side. We'll jump in and support the end user. We'll find out, okay, what kind of template do you want? How are we going to do automation? Are you going to do on-demand printing? We'll build it out for them, help them deploy it, and that allows those resellers to focus on selling, right? They want to take an order, and then they don't want to spend a week supporting it, right? They want to take an order and then go get another order. And so we'll step in and do that hard part, and we'll help with the drivers and everything we've got to do to get that customer set up and running. But I think that's a big differentiator. I know when I was using other applications, I couldn't get support, certainly to that level. And so we'll forward face with the customer, we'll help with their deployment, we'll build their templates, and it really goes a long way for a good user experience when all that stuff comes together seamlessly.
When you hit print and it prints what you want it to, it's less frustrating.
It's less frustrating, and the phone rings a lot less, right? You're not dealing with a frustrated customer. You're not having to divert resources and jump in and fix things. Just do it right out of the gate, get the customer set up, and then everybody's happy.
You know how many printers I've almost punted out of my house personally because
I can imagine.
I can
imagine. A lot of printers around here at BlueStar.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, David, one last thing. Who is an ideal customer that you would want to work with?
It's a great question. The resellers are obviously it. People that are in the printer reseller space were, while we started in the laboratory space, we're really industry agnostic. We've recently launched our RFID encoding solution that's got us in every industry there is. So the ideal customer is really somebody that wants to work together as a team and solve problems and deliver a better end user experience to their customers. I think that's the ideal situation for us, is really having a good relationship with resellers, common goals, and we identify what we're going to do for the process. We stay in our lane. We don't compete. We don't sell printers or scanners or anything like that, media. We simply accommodate the labeling component. We don't do tracking systems. We want to be the labeling solution for the tracking system, so we're not going to compete in that space. So really, I think the ideal customer for us is somebody that's struggled with the existing legacy labeling applications. They haven't been able to get the support they want. Their customers don't get the attention they want. They don't fix problems the way they should. And that's where we've gotten a lot of our business, is just resellers looking for a better partnership, a partnership that's focused on working together, not trying to exploit the opportunity.
Yeah, right on. All right, guys, listen, you heard it from David. Easy to use, customizable to your client's needs, and they want to work with you. So those are the big three takeaways that I've heard.
Yeah.
If you want to get a hold of David, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to connect you. And then, let's see what can happen from here. So
great.
With that said, it's probably the favorite part of the show, actually. I mean, besides being here with David, is we get to drink the beer. That's right. That's the on tap part of ISVs.
2:00 on a Thursday afternoon. I don't get to do this much anymore.
It's 4:30 for the record.
That's 2:30 somewhere, but yeah.
All right, what do we got here, Dave? So David brought this with him from Florida, where he's from. This is Calusa?
Calusa Brewery, yes. Sarasota, Florida. They are a fantastic brewery. If you know anything about Florida beer, they're on the map. They're constantly one of the top reference breweries. They've got fantastic IPAs. So we've got a hazy double IPA here. Their Zote, that's their flagship beer. We've also got their West Coast IPA, the Skelly. But if you're ever in Florida, make a point to try and track down a Calusa beer. You will not be disappointed.
Did you say you would buy beers if somebody shows up to Sarasota?
You show up to Sarasota, give us a shout. We'll make sure you got a couple cold ones waiting at the tap room for you.
Looks like I'm booking my flight to Sarasota.
There you go.
Check this can out. This is a really cool can. It's a Pirate.
Yes.
And that's Zote?
Zote.
Zote. It's ZOTE, by the way, hazy
Right.
IPA. So, all right, let me take a sample of this. Definitely IPA-ish. You can definitely smell the citrus in there. It's not like it's my first drink either. I'm looking like it's my
time,
first
right?
one. Yeah, right. So it's definitely an IPA. There's no doubt about it. Very hoppy, very citrusy. It's palpable. Not my favorite genre of beers, but it's good. I'll finish this one off for sure. So, David,
Awesome.
thank you for being on the show, and cheers.
Josh, cheers. Thank you. Thank you to BlueStar. You guys are a great partner, and really enjoy the relationship.
Yeah, thank you.